get that going. So what will happen is that if there's somebody that couldn't make it and you felt there was something you wanted somebody to see, we'll post the recording on the online bidding site. Should be there probably later the end of this week. So why are we here? Boy, I just keep getting more people coming. So we'll get them in here. There we go. So why are we here? Edmond continues to grow. I think in the report we put 1.9% per year. Many of you know the history of this community much better than I do. I've been here about nearly 14 years. But the one thing that I have seen in the 14 years that I've been here is that whatever's going on in the economy, we continue to move forward in Edmond. Obviously, the most recent experience we had in that has been the dealing with COVID-19 and how our community responded or went through that. Still going through it like everybody else is, but we don't seem to be as impacted as some of our neighboring communities. So what that means for the city is we continue to need employees to go with a expanding workforce to meet the needs of a growing citizen base. Our city offices have grown by acquiring and repurposing a bank, a post office, a church, and we even lease property in downtown Edmond. We believe that we can improve operations by consolidating into one building. Once we consolidate into that building, then that leaves real estate around where we consolidate available to be used for other purposes. Just recently, we had the Public Safety Center built, and in that process, we abandoned the old police department building. We determined that building wasn't worth saving to try to repurpose in any way. So we decided to tear it down, actually to get prepared for this kind of conversation we're starting today. Some of you may have noticed, if you've been downtown, that we created a little temporary park, and it is absolutely temporary. The trees that you see on the park were salvaged just before we started clearing the earth for the expansion of our cemetery. So those were adopted trees temporarily. We saved them, give them another season or two before we look to build a new building. So in moving forward, downtown Edmond has many exciting things going on right now. We think this is a great time to talk about what opportunities we have. It's just, we can't, with the development that's occurring downtown today, we think it's a great time to move forward. What we're going to talk about, though, a lot, and with your questions and feedback, is the mechanics, because this first phase of the process is to help us understand what you need to make a transaction work, but we'll explain to you what we need to make a transaction work. And the challenge for us is we're a local government, and our powers and authority come from the state of Oklahoma. And we have to then guide our way through that process to be able to accomplish what we hope we can accomplish with consolidated offices and working through some new economic development activity downtown. So literally, we've got to have a dialogue as to how you all find the best way or the questions that you may have for us and how to get there. And I guess that was my beginning spiel, and really open it up for just your inquiries as to what we're thinking, and maybe we can get some feedback to you and as to what you're thinking too, as in terms of development. I know many of you won't want to, tip too many hands as to what you're working on potentially. But again, we need to know what the obstacles will be as we go forward. So once you prepare your proposal, I'll go through that process just real quick. Once you prepare your proposal, it's basically just a resume or a prospectus as to who you are and your team that you put together. We'll then sit down with an interview that involves our team of folks at the city, which will include council members, members from our urban board, and other city staff members. At that point, we'll talk through what you're specifically maybe looking at and how we can make that happen. Again, one of the challenges for us is we have certain laws that we have to deal with when it comes to competitive bidding. If we're building a building, if we're selling real estate, we've got certain processes to go through. But the law does give us a lot more latitude if we're looking at leasing. And so leasing may be the avenue that works best, long-term leases for either the building or even the use of the land in the future. So with that, and Janet, I don't know if there's anything you want to add at this point. That's what's brought us here today, to see what we can do to facilitate a conversation.
I'll touch on just a couple of things. From an economic development perspective, we are seeing and have seen an awful lot of activity and interest in our downtown area. And it's really the area of town that has continued to boom. So, we'd like to see what opportunities could come out of this. But we've got different districts of downtown, and really most of them are seeing different kinds of activity, either in residential or commercial, and different kinds of residential projects, different sizes and really shapes of residential, and some mixed use. So we've got some projects in the pipeline currently. The Ice House project is going on, and a residential project called the Lark, and some things that are still brewing that we can't really talk about yet, but this could be part of really a next big phase of that, if we can get all these things to work and get your questions answered. So,
as I point out in the RFI, we are currently in the process of pursuing and implementing a TIF, our very first TIF in Edmond, and it is a property tax TIF. We've worked the details with the public schools. We've talked to the other taxing units. It goes to our planning commission on the 18th for their review and hopefully approval of moving forward. And then more than likely, it'll be on the council's first meeting and second meeting in September for final approval. Normally, we would have a conversation about our city interests would be so focused on sales tax that we've got to have retailers and things that are going to pay sales tax to basically trip our trigger. That's what pays for what we do here in Edmond is sales taxes. The TIF changes that a lot. We are interested in the capital investment downtown that we could then use to leverage for other improvements downtown. And as an example, we've talked about a parking garage. If we continue to get the density that we think that people are interested in seeing downtown, and then we could find ways to leverage public improvements that makes those other investments work even better. So, those are the property tax is a game changer for us in terms of this development. And we don't at this point see any reason to believe that won't be in place by the time this proposal process gets under full, when you get your proposals to put in for the projects to move forward. So what questions do you have? And if you want to use the raised hand feature, I can unmute you and we can try to answer some of them that you may have. if I can find where the raised hand feature is here. Get through here. We've got 44 participants, so I got to kind of scan through and see if anybody's raised their hand. I got one here. Sorry, I'm learning where to look. Kevin.
Hi, this is Kevin Simcox. I was wondering if you could shed some light on, beyond the city hall itself, what are the public benefits that the city is trying to generate at this location? And then how does that play into, or what is the status of the small park at the intersection there of First and Littler?
Literally, first of all, the quick answer on the small park is that it can go away tomorrow if there's a good reason to build something there. We did that because we didn't want to just throw some grass down and for erosion control and then just have it sit there and be a waste. So we decided to move forward with some very modest improvements to make it kind of a little local gathering place. But so the park part is irrelevant in our discussions. It's ready to move forward with other development. In terms of the question you have about what else we want to see besides a city hall, that's where you all have to tell me what the market can bear right now in terms of office space, in terms of retail space, in terms of residential, probably multifamily, what types of multifamily. We're very interested in seeing a mixed use type development. We believe that the more people that we can get living in and around downtown Edmond, the stronger downtown Edmond will be. So that's what our interests are, and we're open to opportunities. And you could even say entertainment if you can dream up some kind of entertainment venue. One thing that's mentioned in the RFI is that we have a plan at some point in the future to develop a performing arts center in downtown. At some point during all this process, we will probably try to figure out, reserve a spot for it, because time will move on and we don't want to tie our hands that we can't move forward with it. But whether it's ready to move forward has a lot to do with what opportunities are out there with private donors and the university, and what abilities they have to leverage with whatever we can leverage into the project. So that's a very quick response to that. Any other questions? There we go, Paul. Get you unmuted.
Hi, thanks. Steve, will the final RFP include parameters? You mentioned a long-term lease for the city space. Will you include details as to what hard or statutory restrictions or limits or even desired limits on those lease terms you have?
Yeah, I think that's in our individual conversations with development teams. We're going to visit about what it is that will make your proposal more attractive for you, and see if there's a mutual numbers of time and into the future that could work. And yes, we're working with Leslie Batchelor to review the legal aspects of this transaction, and she's made it very clear to me it's going to be a challenge trying to put everything together. So we're we're trying to find creativity in this process too. We think what we're doing is somewhat creative. Now we got to find that path to make sure that we can execute on that. So as we get to the final RFP, there will be very, very clearly the detail that we need to have, so you know what you're getting into and we know what we're getting into, and we're asking you to make a firm proposal on a very detailed plan. So this process is for us to help talk through what everybody needs, and then we'll decide what it is we can make work, and then we'll put that together in a proposal form. But it is a very interactive process until we get to that point. And I'm going to unmute Mr. Brown or Ms. Brown. I don't know.
No, that would be a Mr. Brown.
Okay. So,
Steve,
yes, sir.
Is there a plan to move the council chambers and the courts into this building and presumably first floor? Is that kind of your thinking?
It is our thinking that we want this to be all encompassing. And I'll just say in our mind today, we envision something like, if you're familiar with the Board of Education's setup, where they have the different bays, and then they can expand the room size based on the need for board meetings or for other meetings that they are holding in the. So it's kind of a long corridor is kind of what we envision that can be divided up. Now, the one thing that you never want a too big of a city council chamber, because you don't want to fill it up. And so,
Yeah.
So sometimes it's nice to have a limit as to how many you let in the council. No, I'm just kidding on that. We want everybody to be participants because this is being recorded. I better be careful. Now we do envision that they go and they would have to be on a. I won't say they have to be on a first floor, but the council is really leaning to have everything on the first floor.
Okay.
Another thing, and is the challenge that we have also is we've got to vacate the space before we tear down the other space. And,
right.
And so it's kind of hard to there may be ways to phase in the court and the council chambers after we've built the consolidated offices, and then maybe could tear other buildings down to be where the council chambers and the court could be in a different corner or property once we've gotten the central building built. So again, that's going to be part of that discussion as we go through the process. There's a lot of ways to get from point A to point B, and we're going to be open to those discussions. Yeah, we'd love to be able to move everybody all at once into this building and have all those functions. We'd love to have more property than we currently own.
Yeah.
On the site, and then that could be an issue that a development group may want to try to acquire more property to make things work better. I just throw that out there. So,
okay. Great.
You bet. Thank you.
Thank you.
Looking around for other raised hands. First of all, I can't believe I haven't heard, Mr. Hornbeek's been very quiet, and that's out of character. And his brother's in my building today, so I have to be on best behavior. So.
Did you break the law again, Steve?
No, I'm okay. I'm okay.
Okay.
I bonded out. Let's see, Kevin, did you have your hand raised?
I had my hand raised. This is
Oh, good. Go ahead.
I just wanted to clarify what you expect at this first phase from development team. I mean, on page 6 of your RFP, you have stage 1 deliverables, but at the top of this session, you said we're just looking for qualifications on development teams. And on page 6, stage 1 deliverables, you list, hey, we want to see your concept.
If you're willing to share some concepts, that's fine. I don't have to see concepts in this phase. And I'm sorry as we were putting this document together, we were trying to determine what's the best process to get from point A to point B, because we have so many questions of you all as to what's going to work for you, that it's hard for us to say, well, this is what exactly we want. And everybody goes, hey, that's not in our wheelhouse. And we don't want to limit conversation at this point. So our intention is to visit with your team, talk about what you think might work when we have our individual meetings, what obstacles you see to make that work. And then in the phase 2 process is when we get down into the real nitty gritty. Here's how we're going to our proposal will lay it out. And here's how if it's a lease term, that is the method that we choose to get from point A to point B, then here's how we're going to give you the best number you can get if we can do these things on these other properties.
Okay, so very conceptual.
Very, very conceptual.
All right, thank you, sir.
And if you can all, at this point, since there's not a heavy dialogue, feel free to unmute yourself and just introduce yourself. Kevin, do you have your hand up again, or?
Yeah, this is Kevin. Can you help clarify who precisely are the judges, or who are the people we will be in dialogue with at the City of Edmond?
At this point, we haven't gone to which council members will participate, but at least one, no more than 2 will participate in the process. We'll have somebody from our urban board participate in the process. Maybe somebody also from DEBA, the downtown business group, and then city staff members would include myself. They would include Janet would be involved in this process, and some of our members of our planning staff will be involved. So probably Randy Ince and maybe Ken Bryan too. So to listen in, and then Andy Conyers would be a part of that from the city manager's office also.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I'm just interested in, I'll just come right out and say it, I'm a pretty frank person. Is this a crazy idea, what we're trying to do?
No, I don't think so. I think you're on target.
Yeah.
Getting input from the design and development community, to me, seems like a good approach.
Well, again, I know there's going to be challenges as we go through this process. Because the law doesn't give us the kind of latitude I wished we had to be able to just go through a process and negotiate like a lease with a purchase option. When we get into the purchase option, it does change things. And that's where Leslie, our attorney on this project that'll help us, gets very nervous. So it may end up just being a lease process for a very, very long time. And but again, we'll talk through how we get there. There was even a conversation about that we might traditionally build the building on the site, and then have the RFP process be more for the sites we're abandoning in downtown. I'm not ready to give up yet on the possibility of the city hall being the done non-traditionally. Any
Steve,
other? Yeah, go ahead.
do you, has anybody done any preliminary budgeting for you all to review and approve of what your occupancy costs would be in a lease proposal for City Hall?
No, we have not done that yet. We
So
know.
nobody said to you that, we're going to be looking at a, whatever, $2.5 million rent number, and that's something we're going to be comfortable with. You've not gone to that exercise.
I'll just say I've penciled some things together myself to see if it's even reasonable. But I'm also counting on the other real estate opportunities to help reduce that lease cost for me if it all is packaged together. And I'm also counting on that the private sector can build this project for less expense up front than what we could. I'm counting on that too. So no, I know that it would be there'll be a sticker shock when it comes to the lease. I'm curious to see though how much the land that we have to be a part of this conversation, and also what cost savings the private sector can build the building for versus what our traditional design build systems would result in, what price we would get for that. We have and I probably should post it, Thomas Small did a space utilization study for us for our building needs for the centralized office. And then just recently we've added an addendum to that, and that will be for the court and for the city council chambers. And so I can post those reports on the online bidding site if you're interested in seeing that information. I just throw out that we're in the neighborhood of 100,000 square foot building that has the amenities of the court and the council chambers in it. I will say the world that we've just come through has changed some things in our building plan. Originally our plan was to continue to have utility payments come into the building. We've lived very well for the last 5-6 months without anybody making in-person payments. That we've often looked at the potential in the future of not having that traffic, and it's a higher cost for us to collect if somebody wants to pay in person than it is online or through the mail. So the building plan will probably change that doesn't include the in-person payments. And that changes also how the square footage works too. So I think we've got an ample, in that ballpark of 100,000, ample space to work with our needs now and into the future. Because we've got also people that are going to be able to work remotely in our operations. So again, if there's anything good that's come out of this, we've learned some new things that we can do to save us some money.
I'll say there's also some other supporting documents that might be helpful to anybody, including a downtown master plan, some suggested design guidelines that are currently in place for our downtown, and a recently completed downtown parking study. So we can make those available. Either Steve or I can make those available if those would be helpful to anyone.
Yeah, those are referenced in the RFI under the resources. There are links that are listed that you can go to our website and get those documents that Janet just mentioned. I think all of them are there.
Or information about anything that's currently going on as far as private development, dollar amounts, where they are on a map, anything like that. We would like to make this as easy as we can for you, so you are interested in it.
Any other questions before we end this discussion? Again, the first phase is basically the information exchange. And then after that, we will get into the much deeper detail as to how that will work out. And as Jim pointed out in his question, yeah, we know we have to compare what our purchase cost is potentially with us building a design build traditional method of building a building at the city versus that of a lease. And so we'll, again, be very cognizant of how everybody's numbers can work. And as we have these conversations, maybe you can tell us how we can improve to get that bottom line for both of us.
I have a question, Steve. This is David Hornbeek.
Yeah, David.
If you're going to put that study that was done by Small online, when will you do that?
I will try to get it done yet this afternoon.
Great. I think that'd be very helpful for everyone. And that will also include the court study as well, correct?
Yes, there'll be two pieces to it.
Did Small do both of them?
Yes, he did.
Steve, this is Brian Mitchell with SRB. You mentioned design build and potential alternative forms of delivery for a facility. Has the city ever endeavored into the consideration of design build finance on a project like this? As you're referencing leasing long term, have you considered alternative forms of delivery, including finance?
Again, we're open to those conversations. We are open to those, and so it's not something we've done in Edmond, and we just want to make sure that our legal staff is comfortable with how that process goes.
Okay.
But I know a lot more people as the years have gone on since I've been here. When I first got here, it was almost taboo to talk about that. It's become more acceptable to approach it that way now. So
yeah, the state law that governs design build was just adjusted last year, I believe it was.
yeah,
That allows it to be an option in certain applications, but on an application this large, it would certainly be a trendsetter above and beyond anything in the state from a municipal standpoint.
we're open for those conversations.
Okay.
Okay. If there's no last questions or comments that anybody has, I'll just remind everybody that the RFI submittal is at 2 p.m. on September 2nd. And that'll be in our online bidding platform. Don't wait till the last minute to submit it because we'd love to get your proposal and be able to talk to you at that time. Because if it doesn't get through, then we really can't talk to you. So don't wait till the last minute. Get it in early. Get your acknowledgement that it got through. Because too often we've had bidders on projects, big construction projects, wait till the absolute last second. And I know sometimes you're waiting for subs to respond, but we've missed some good bids sometimes that way. So we want to keep everybody in the conversation that wants to be in the conversation. So I thank you all very much for your time today, and look forward to seeing what information you have. If you have other questions in the meantime, my contact is in the RFI, and also I believe it was in there. Maybe I didn't get it put in there now that I look real quick. Well, if not, it's steve.commons@edmondok.com. So that's pretty simple to get a hold of us, and you can look on our website. You can find my link. And Janet also would be more than happy to try to answer questions you all have, particularly about what's going on downtown. There's just lots of exciting things, and we want to be a part of that excitement. So thank you all for your time today, and appreciate it.